Welcome to the channel. This is Reliable Rudy. Getting a couple things set up on the other screen, and then we will go into the title names. Two of the title names are just repeat names from last Friday. Two names that we didn't even trade Friday, but we do hold. And then we is a name that we've tried a couple entries. We got an average size, but really we're giving it these wick supports right here. But the reason why I only wanted average size because I'll be put in a position where if it does break these wicks down, we think that it's a legitimate trend line that we think can hold and maybe catch a bid to the upside. But before we go into any more analysis, you guys know I'm not a licensed financial advisor. Everything in this video contains only my opinion and is for entertainment purposes only. Uh, I'm just a guy sharing my opinion of how I like to trade. And let me make one thing clear because I had an interesting conversation with somebody over the weekend. Trading and investing to me are completely different. This ticker that I'm trading today is by no means a long-term investment. For all I know, I could be out of this name in the next 5 minutes. Now, take that for what it's worth when you're listening to this, and for any other traders out there as well. Because at the end of the day, uh, this is not a name that I'd say is financially set to sustain for the foreseeable future. When you're in on a name like that, and yes, it is going to be more volatility. I mean, if we were just looking at the range from the bottom wick to the top wick, we're looking at 17% of volatility. That probably has to do with not as much liquidity on the books, and more eyes trading. As you can see, 50 million shares traded. There is a lot of people that are trying to make money in the short term. Short term as in next minute. Short term as in the next day. Short term, maybe there are people that are punching long. I don't know. I really don't even know that much about the company. All that I know is that if more people buy, if more liquidity is bought than sold at this given moment, the price will go up. And then it rinse and repeats over and over and over and over again until you get a closing price. So please keep that in mind. If I wanted to go on here and trade only tickers I felt I wanted for this foreseeable future, I could do that, and maybe we will implement that into some of the trading days. But for this particular moment with I simply said, hey, there's a trend line right here. Hey, we gap up right to a kind of a neckline break. And I'm saying that if the price were to get over top of this neckline and hold, you can see that we'd never really set a small close above that, but still trying to find the range. But I'm saying that if it gets over top of this price, I think that more stock is going to be bought than sold, meaning that the price can move up. So, I mean, that's all it is. So please keep this with a grain of salt. If you guys are coming on here uh, and trading something like this with me just because I am, I mean, that is not a winning formula for yourself. So please understand that. Now, if we were over here trading an index name, an index that I trade is VT, and I said, yeah, I think it's a good buy right here. Buy it. Yeah, I think it's a good buy right here. Buy it. And the price keeps going down and down and down and down and down. I would continue to say, yes, I think this is a legitimate long-term ETF that you can buy. Even if it came down and cracked these lows down here, I would say, yeah, I'm happy with the shares I bought up here. Because that is my personal opinion. I think the world's economy is going to get better. And that is the long-term catalyst that I need to say, I don't really care where I punch in on it. Now, would I say that with No, 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 because for all I know, this company goes out of business in a couple months. I really have no clue. So please understand the names that you're trading, and I try to, for those types of companies that I would say, hey, I'm punching in and I'm in. Uh, a lot of the times I have more conviction that, hey, the fundamentals of this company, the financials of this company are sound. Even if in the short run more liquidity is sold and the price goes down, I'm okay. I'm okay holding it. I'm fairly young. I have a long investing career ahead, and if I get the high conviction in a company and the price goes down, to me, all that means is that I'm able to buy more of the stock at a lower price. And sizing is a big thing as well. Understanding where you want to size, how you want to size your position, what percentage of allocation you want for your portfolio is everything. You could have high conviction on something. That doesn't mean that you just want to punch in with everything you got. You don't want to put all your eggs in the same basket. You want to diversify. Diversification is huge in portfolio allocation for me, especially for long-term plays. But then the percentage of allocation is also big because, like I said, you could have high conviction on something and the price goes down a lot over the short run. And, you know, if you allocate properly, it gives you more opportunity to buy at a cheaper price. So I did want to get that off my chest because I had a very long and interesting conversation with a good buddy of mine over the weekend, and he, the way I took it is he kind of uh, didn't understand the purpose of what I'm doing when I'm trading here, and honestly, I would say a majority of the people that do trade don't even make money. There's weeks that I've had where I'm red. Uh, I mean, trading is not guaranteed. Trading, in a sense, me saying that, hey, I'm playing with this little support level right here. In a sense, I'm gambling that more liquidity or more stock is going to get bought here. I have no clue. You could have, and this was, I was watching. I'm not going to say any names because personally, I don't think he's a very good trader. Uh, but I was watching him trade, and he said, "Oh, this is the setup I trade every single time. It works for me every single time, and I'm gonna make a lot of money on this." He said that right on his stream, and I said, "Bull crap, bull crap. It does not work every single time. I don't care. Let's say this is the setup, even though it's not. Let's say this is the setup, and I'm saying, no, this setup works every single time. You have no clue who else is out there that owns this. You could have some whale that owns, 50% of the liquidity in this company, and he dumps everything on your A1 setup, your A plus setup that works every single time. Quotation marks, every single time. Bullcrap. If that guy with that huge order size or that huge amount of liquidity dumped everything on your A1 setup, I promise you that setup is not going to work. I promise you. I do not care what the setup is. If more liquidity is bought than sold at a given time, the price will go up and vice versa to the downside. I 100% disagree with that. So on top of him saying that, and on top of me saying I don't think he's a good trader, um, to go out and have a bigger following and to say something like that, God, man, it gets my blood boiling a little bit. You know what I mean? Because it's just not something that I would personally feel comfortable sharing with somebody saying, "Oh, this is A plus setup. This works every single time for me." And I'm just like, and honestly, it did work out. It did work out. The price did go up. So probably when he went to bed that night, he probably told himself, uh, "Oh yeah, dude, I'm such a smart person. Oh my God, I do so much good for people." But I'm telling you, just because something works once doesn't mean that it's going to work again. And just because it works for you that one time, you don't know if that's a blessing in disguise or you don't know if that's your worst nightmare. Because just because, let's say he made $1,000 on this. The next time he says, "Oh, this works every single time," he might use even more size because, "Oh, it worked last time. That means I'm going to do it again and I'm going to hammer it." and he might he might put a lot more size on it, and this one time doesn't work out for him and he ends up losing his butt. I'm just saying, guys, please understand that I'm going to stop rambling because when I start rambling, it can get out of control. So I'm just going to stop right there, and we're going to focus on this trade. Really, I'm debating on whether I want to run a deep stop in on this or not, give it the trend line. We do have a lot of volume in this name. It's up 8%, down since the open, but you can see all these wicks. The buyers are continuing to try and hold this up, but I will say that this is candle number 3. Or if this fourth candle wants to give some continuation to the downside, this could be some sort of bear flag that you just don't even notice. If I go to a 5-minute chart, you can see here's your kind of descending channel that you have building out right here. And you could say a descending wedge pattern that's panning out like this. So if this were to crack this, is this trend line going to be able to hold? I don't know. I don't know, but you can see you're getting a little bit of selling pressure going into this 5-minute. You can see this red engulfing closes as a red engulfing right here, and you can see as we push into the middle of it, you can see it's starting to uh, get some selling pressure right in the middle of this move, which is also the previous low. So I'd say this is a pretty deciding factor right here. This uh, 22-2, call it. Uh, and you can see if this were a sort of a bear flag, it has the catalyst for a continuation back to the downside. You have a smaller neckline right here that keeps that wick to it, wick, wick, wick. So maybe this 21.5 is a decent area to try and dip into some more, or maybe below that is a catalyst for some more downside move down towards that 20. So a couple different ways of looking at it, and I don't really like putting too much emphasis on that 5-minute. But you can see this 15-minute, just with that wedge pattern, you can see the catalyst for some downside move. Well, maybe if it gets over top of 22.5, that's a catalyst for some greed movement to the upside. So I didn't mean to ramble on about that. So I'll drink my coffee and I'll hush up a little bit. And I'm just gonna clear everything because that is a just a mess of stuff. I'm just gonna go re-put in this trend line that I think has a reasonable catalyst for some movement to the upside. That does not mean it is a home run trade, but also if you're marking a downtrend, you break that downtrend, you respect the uptrend over cracking back below that downtrend. This sideways consolidation could also be looked at as something that could catch a bid, and we talked about that 22.5. Now it's starting to put in a at the start of this candle. So keep in mind we were only 45 seconds into this candle. Starting to catch a bid as of right now, but for all I know, this actually ends up giving a washout top. I've seen it before, where oh man, we're putting in that nice green candle early in the candle. Oh, it takes out this whole red candle. It's a green engulfing candle. That's what some would say. And I would probably say it too if the price were to get back over that 23. I would say, oh, you had a full green engulfing candle engulfing over top of that red candle. But you can see as of right now, starting to wick in. Well, even if the price was up here and it wicked right back into the same area, I would still look at it the same way as, oh, this is a kind of a washout top where you don't know who is really punching in and what size they're punching in with on that. So as of right now, I'm saying to myself that, hey, we have some decent buying pressure down here off these holding above these 21 halves. If we can just hold and trade sideways, maybe you can get a nice green candle and continuation to the upside following that. So that is what we're looking for. So now back to the other title names. I'm going to go over to the SQQ, which we've talked about many times, even before I went on vacation. This is what I'm talking about. Kind of gave that washout top. It actually set a new high up to that 1978. And kind of gave up the ghost a little bit. So it's good to see the market, starting to catch a little bit of a bounce. But even in the short term, the gap up from Friday at 1913 still holding right there. A very high sloping trend right there. and just marking these lows. If it were to give this up, you have a lot of levels. You have a nice green move right here that you can fall back into the middle of, and expect to have some buyers in the middle of this green move. Also, what's important is that your strength is still positive. So anytime I get that positive strength, a lot of times when I say, hey, it's positive strength, you got the A-OK to try this gap if you wanted to, and you can run that down, average more in at 19, and then average some more in off these previous highs, and maybe you can catch this sort of U shape that takes out the highs and goes higher. Um, but the Nasdaq giving that or Nasdaq short giving that positive strength, I would say it is worth keeping on watch because the Nasdaq has been very strong on the year. So if this were to get some continuation off of this, now you can also see you have a nice trend line that we're trying to hold on. You have a negative break on strength. So honestly, one of the days this week, I would not be surprised to see a gap down and continuation to the downside if this trend line means anything worthy of it. And where that could go is back down to this flat top. I know a lot of people are going to be like, back down to the flat top. Man, that's a huge move down. Hey, when you get this negative break and you get that continuation to the downside, you don't know who's in short early entry that's respecting this trend line. But then if the price were to get back up into like these previous lows, and I'm talking from the TQ, these previous lows, this little shoulder right there that gives out and then respects it back up to the upside. If this were to catch a bit up to here and then crack this trend line, you don't know who's getting in short off of that area right there. So worth noting right there. Now let's take a look back at wee up to that 23. So position is working decent. A little bit more time into this candle. Nice candle that's coming in, flirting with these highs, and on a 15-minute, getting positive for now. But like I say, in any position, those big players are around this middle ground. We're kind of fighting around that middle ground right here. So hopefully this is something that can continue catching a bid to the upside and actually catching a nice bid. So with the position that we have right now, I think this is at an area where we can start taking some profits off. Looking at the average size that we have on it, right now the position sitting 6.8% in the money. So a good start to this position, and one that we don't have the most amount of size, but we have a little size. Just in case it were to give that up, I would have had one last entry that I would have played in right off the trend line, and then I would have ran my out underneath the lows, which probably would have been a 20-cent break. So that was the catalyst that we're moving with. Now, just because this price moving up doesn't mean that I'm a genius. Just because I'm getting ready to take a little bit of profit off doesn't mean, oh, dude, I'm a godsend. No, 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 no. Please take everything into perspective that, uh, one, this is for entertainment. Two, I was very realistic that, hey, this price can go down, but I think that the setup is reasonable enough with an uptrend hold, a downtrend break, a downtrend retest, and respecting the uptrend. I said that the catalyst is there. And another big factor is that it has volume. It has 61 million of volume. It has a lot of eyes on it. So if a lot of people are sitting there looking at the same thing as me, I'm saying that, hey, if I can see it, there's a lot of volume. Other people are seeing it too. So hopefully that can be enough where we can get some price movement to the upside. But like I said, just because it's an A plus setup, and I wouldn't even say this is an A plus setup, but just because um, uh, it could be classified as a good setup doesn't mean that there's not somebody that's holding a large portion of shares that could just dump it at any given time. And I think this is kind of the price movement we were looking for. Let's take a piece off and let's go see where that fill came in at. We took off, let's do that calculation. What is that? 5%? Is that 5%? Yeah, 5%. 5% of the position taken off, and we got a 23.86 fill. So the high wick on this goes up to 24, and now right back up to those 24s. So a great start to the position. Let's just keep taking off 5% as we want to push up, and let's go right on the ask at these 24s because we still have this wick top that we have to handle here. So let's go ahead and take another 5% right off these 24s, and let's see if we can get a fill. We're at 24s right now. There's 317 lots. I just added a couple lots myself, so let's see if we can get a fill right here and ring the register to the upside. If we want to keep blasting higher, we will gladly just keep taking more and more profit. But 7 minutes left in this candle. If this candle were to close like it is, any profits that I take, I'd be willing to reload it off of this 22.75, which would average up my position. But then I'm saying that, hey, we took out, this was kind of an indecision factor. We were able to take it out, and if we close above it, I'm expecting the same buyers that came in off this green move to come back in off of these previous highs. So even if it were to run up to, let's say like 25s and then pull back in, then if it got up to like 25s and flirted with this top wick, then I may be even saying, hey, off at 23.32, and we did get our 24 fills, so filled 24s, so we got 2 prints on the name, we have 10% of the position off, and let's see if we can keep trimming some levels. We don't feel comfortable holding a huge percentage of the size, but just in case this wants to keep running higher, we don't want to get too much off. This is a pretty decent setup, and going back to the daily, I like using that strength. We have volume. You got this wick top right here. You get the gap up. We're flirting. Our strength on our daily is 2.53. So a positive break is potential today. We still have 5 hours and 30 minutes left on the day. So keep that in mind, that just because it's positive right now, we still have a lot of time for this candle to develop. So that is the understanding of that. So now that we got a couple trims on the name, let's go to our last title name, and that is Boyle. Boyle, kind of for Boyle, 1.5% really isn't too much movement. But Boyle was a name from Friday, and why we liked it, let's just clear everything, is one, you have a positive break, you kind of give up that positive break, you reclaim, you give it up again, now you reclaim it, and then on the commodity, we're actually able to take out that high, but in a sense, it kind of rejected that same area. So we looked at this as the pull of our bull flag, and then this pull back in, 1, 2. Well, this happened on, normally I'd like number 3, but where it pulled back into, if I mark these wick tops right there, wick, that's our neckline break that we had where we gap up, pull right back into it. So right now I'm telling myself that, hey, if this is some sort of retracement, we're looking at this as a 382 retracement. Had it pulled back in further to that half, that's more into the middle of that neckline right there, we would have said, hey, we're expecting the same buyers in this move to the upside to come back in. That doesn't mean that they're going to come back in. So I think Boyle, and keep in mind I am long in Boyle. I'm trying to give an unbiased opinion. But looking at it from a strength perspective, I think it's a reasonable setup, but it still has quite a bit of resistance that needs to break over. We can see it's still rejecting. Look at this as a 77 sort of flat top that's building, so maybe it needs to pull back in to this sort of trend line before we get some further movement. So if this is building a wedge pattern up to 77, if we can get over that and let's call it an 80 break, let's start with the lows over here, which also has some wicks, which is at middle 80s, and I'd say the dream move that we're looking for is a move up to the gap, which is the flat top gap. And maybe if it gets there, maybe we'll be saying, hey, these lows over here, you can see low, when it cracks this, it actually tries to hold it, boom, gives up to the downside. Can we get a move back up to 3? That'd be an insane move. So yes, that is sort of the catalyst that we're looking at with that. Now we can focus back at and I wrote down a lot of tickers for today. I'm just kind of letting some stuff breathe, and maybe when this we trade gets into a better position, then we can look at some of those other names. But if I were to just say, hey, it's sitting right here, we have a couple outs already, let's look at some other names. The first name that we wrote down, Chegg, I do not own it. I'm not interested in buying it yet, but I'll give the catalyst of why we like it is because, I went back and looked through their earnings, and I actually liked their earnings. It had a big gap up, it came all the ways back in. Why I like it, we have some strength, and for some reason I don't have my 34. So let's go and get that 34 up there. And let's change the color over to green. There we go. Alright, now you can see I'm just looking for it to hold this level, and why I think it can hold that level is because you got positive strength. I liked their earnings. Uh, that doesn't mean that they were good earnings. We is catching a bid, so let's go back over to we, and maybe this is an area where we can go on the ask. And what's the high of this candle is 24.38. So let's go right above that a little bit at 24.50. So let's go ahead and try and take off another 5%. And let's go at 0.245. And let's see if we can get a fill there. If we're able to get the fill, great. If not, let's be patient with it. Uh, we have a minute 30 left on this candle. A nice candle at the look of it right now. As of right now, it is a nice candle. And there's 24.5. Are we getting a fill right here? Let's go see if we got the fill here or not. And we do have a fill, so ring the register on 24.5. We can call this average at 22. So up to that 24.5 is in 11%. So as of right now, a great start to the week with the solo name that we've traded. So ring the register on that, and maybe this wick top up here we can go in front, since it never quite got to that 25. So maybe if it gets to 25, we catch a bid to the upside. But I think this is an area where I'd want to jump in front of it a little bit. So let's go 24.8 and 24.9 for a couple more orders. If it wants to pull back in, like I said, the top of these candles, if it wants to pull back in there, we have 3 outs already on the name. If we get back to here, we can say, hey, let's go on the tape. And getting over those 24.5, so let's go ahead and go on the ask here we'll start at, and I'm only going to do 2.5% on these 2 cuts because, one, we're there right now. So we should have just got 24.8s. And let's go right there off 25s. Because now we are at 25, so let's see if we can just get one at 25 instead of those 9s. Even though I should have went 9s, we did get a fill off of those 24 9s. And we're at 25s right here. Let's see if we can take these out. There's 500 lots. Trying to catch something and right back in. So let's see if we did get those 25s. It was flirting with it. We did get the 25 fill. We did get the 25 fill. So beautiful fill right there. Beautiful fill. Very happy with how this trade is going right now. And now let's just see if we can get some continuation. And honestly, I accidentally put 1 extra 0 in there. So now we're sitting at only, I really only wanted to take off 2.5%. But we took off 25% on that fill. That's all right. That's all right. We're okay with how this position is going. We have a little bit over 50% of the position left. So now that we're at 25%, or a little over 50% of the position, let's see if we can still catch a bid to the upside. Where I would say, there's still some resistance that is caught in right here. You can see this previous low when it gives it up, boom, retest, wicking up towards it, and starting to put a green move towards it right now. But I'd say this previous low, and maybe we can mark that wick as well. So we'll mark that wick. I'm looking at this as my next sell window, and now holding over 25s is a pretty good start. But since I took as much size as I did off at those 25 flats, let's see if we can wait for this window right here. And if it pulls back in down to here, and here we are right now. So let's actually go put some orders out there. Let's go and take off and get us right to that 50 flat. So 0.25. That got up there awfully quick. I wasn't expecting it to just put a nice green candle up to that. So if these 25s can hold, we think that we can. I should have been ready. What I marked right there, you can see it already wicking into it. Is that going to be the wick top? It's tough to say. But as of right now, we are looking to get a trim up slightly above that 25 half. So if we can get back up there, we think that we can try it. Other than that, I'm gonna be having my eyes on Wii, but now that it's working for us a little bit, maybe I can set some alerts in down to these 23 halves, and I can go look around at some of the other names that I had written down. But if you guys got any tickers that you want me to take a look at, I'm more than willing to do that for you guys. And like I said, man, we just got done marking that little sell window right there. We put one slight wick up to there, and it jumped up there really quick. I just wasn't able to see that uh, or be ready for it. I could have been ready for it a lot quicker than what I was. But I mean, it is what it is. We think that it can still get back up there, even if it needs to pull back in. We can think about some reloads on the name and go from there. Now, just because I'm reloading, it doesn't mean that it's gonna work. Guaranteed, it's gonna work. No, no. Just because I'm reloading, it just means that you know, in my scenario, the position's working for me. I'm in the green. Uh, I'm willing to you could say gamble, but I'm willing to risk some of that green trade in trying to get some more size back on the position because I look at it as this is a strong name on the day. It was able to take out the high these highs. We'll start with this wick high, this 23.3, with a nice green candle. The volume is starting to pick up a little bit. There's already 1 million shares traded on this current candle, and we're only 5 minutes into the candle, so it already is setting up like, hey, we are going to have some increased volume back-to-back candles. And now let's see if I can get back up into that sell window right there. So after we get a majority of, and here we are, we're putting in a nice green candle. Uh, let's see if it can jump over top of these fives just briefly. Come on, baby, it's almost there. Just tap it in. Just tap it in. And we are previewing an order to set in right here. And there's over those fives. And let's take a piece off right there. And let's see, we took off. We were right at 50% of the position left. Let's see where that fill came in at. And we got 25.56. That's why I hate market orders. But now that we're putting a nice green candle above that, let's just go keep taking pieces off. And we're just going to, just stick with the size that we're using right now. And let's go ahead and take another piece off right in front of these 26s. Now if we get over top of this, uh, that next little area, you have some wick lows that going down in here that also meet up right here. So give or take up to that 27 is a legitimate area where this could catch a bid to. But you still have some wick highs. You still have to fight over top of these 26s. And I don't think I got 26s right there. Oh, we got 26 flat. That's a good fill. That's a really good fill. But I only did it for a little bit of size, not the most. So maybe we can go one more small size off of those 26s right there. And a couple nice green candles coming in right here. If this candle closed like this, I'd be, and there's 26s again. So hopefully we got the fill. And let's see if this can, keep breaking out. And we did get the fill on that other 26 order that we put out there. So ringing the register like crazy on this name. And right through 26s is what we like to see. Right up to the bodies of this candle is 27s. Or we can say this could catch a bid straight up to this area right here. So let's um, and we can put some stops in at this 26 level if we wanted to, where we said, hey, if it gets back under 26, we don't know for sure if it's going to come all the ways back in here. But sitting a little under 50% of the position, let's just see if this can keep getting that continuation that we've got up to this point. Current position is actually 21% in the money. So starting the week off with a fantastic trade. TGTX. This was also. Oh no, not this one. Never mind. I was gonna say this was one that we were watching, but it was another ticker that started with a T. So my apologies there. And this one is, ripping to the upside right now. Let's take a look at this daily. You can see strength just isn't there yet. So that doesn't have any interest in for me, but that doesn't mean that there isn't money to be made either. So you can see wicking up where if we did have those stops in at those 26s, that would have been where we could have got stopped out of some shares. If this candle does turn red, that will be increased volume on this candle, where we're at a little over 2 million shares in this candle. So we'd like to see it end as a green candle. And honestly speaking, if I wanted to take the conservative way with the entry that I have of saying, hey, let's just get out of this thing. It was a really good trade. If we just took everything right now, we made out pretty good on it. Let's go from there and find something else. That could be something that we do, but with this setup, we do now. Another thing to keep in mind that is if this is a retracement play, you can see that sort of sell window from 27 to 28, just marking this right here, is right around that 702. So that is where I'm looking to be a little bit more aggressive right there. And you can see the wick top that's coming in on increased volume right now. So maybe this 27 area is an area that needs to be respected. So as we are getting closer to it, that could be something that we attempt to do is get a little bit more off at that area. Uh, but as of right now, 4 minutes 50 seconds left. We are still underneath of this little sell window that we had marked right here. So keep that in mind that if it continues to reject this, maybe it gives a curl and we get a move back into the middle of this green move. That is a all in all possibility. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm pretty confident this trade isn't going to turn red on us unless it halted to the downside and opened up, down near this gap up that we had at 17. Let's just put that alert right here where it turns red on this candle. And let's go look at some of these other names. So another ticker that we watched a few times last week was CIEN. Why did we have it marked right there? Is because it's still trading above this sort of trend line. Now whether this is a perfect trend line or not, or a perfect ascending channel, it also has a sort of downtrend that, just playing on the safe side, we're keeping it far away from those wicks. But you can see the catalyst where it's trying to build this sort of U shape, and you can see on the commodity that we also have a trend line that's building higher lows on this. So if this were to catch a bid and give us that positive break could be the break of this trend line. And top end of the channel up at 102, it'd have to fight through this neckline first at 53. But even if you were going to run it to that neckline from current price, it's still a 26% move. So CN is going to be one that we continue watching, but then we are aware that it has earnings uh, coming up next week, it looks like, at the end of August. So that was another name that we are keeping on watch. Next name we're going to keep going through, Clean Water Paper Corporation. Earnings play has sort of a downtrend that it could be gapping over. So it gapped over and could be holding above that, but for right now I have it just marked like this. Just to be safe. So a couple different ways of looking at it, but in terms of earnings, just looking at EPS, $1.74, projected 2. If they can keep compounding quarter after quarter like that, for it to be trading at $34. So let's just go on the safe side and say they are going to put up $1 EPS every quarter. That means over the course of a year, that's $4 at EPS. $4 of EPS divided by 35, which is the current stock price. We can just do that. 35 divided by 4. We're looking at if they can put $1 EPS every quarter, the investment pays itself off in 8.75 years. That's pretty good. Now, the higher the EPS that they put every quarter, uh, the faster it pays that investment off. But where I really would like to see this kind of continue this descending little tight channel that it has right here is back down to the flat top that it gaps up over on the earnings day. But continued elevated compared to the weeks leading up to the earnings report, continuing to have elevated volume, which isn't that much volume for the name, but it's just one that we're watching, one that has clear strength, one that we like the earnings report on. Another one is Disney. Now, if this is at 87.50, we are going to be buying it right away. No, it's not. It's at 88.50, but you can see the wick as it got close to that area. The low on the day is uh, call it 88 flat, but this gap from earnings, it gaps up, it gets damn close to that gap. If it comes down and taps those 87.50s, which I should have an alert on this. Let's just put an alert right off of this 87.75. This is a name that I am okay continuing to average into, more of a longer term play that I'm focused on. Keeping an eye on we haven't got triggered on anything yet, but still trading a little bit underneath of that 26. Looking back at it, we can go back over to the 15-minute. You can see we're still in this candle, 18 seconds left. So maybe we can watch the open of this next candle. Let's see if we can get some continuation on this next candle. You can see quite a bit of volume in these last couple candles right here, and right in the middle of this little sell window that we have right here. So let's see if maybe we catch a pop if it gets back over those 26s. And here is the open of the next candle. I wasn't able to see the tape on 26s, but I was able to see 20 or 25.98s just briefly. So there is still some selling pressure leading up in front of these 26s. But the bid is continuing to stack a little bit. Here's these same 98s. It's taking them out pretty quickly. We're only at 12 lots now, and we took those out. Now we're at 26s, right through 26s. This is where we're looking for potential continuation. Is it going to continue the wick into these highs right here? If it's able to get over this, we think we can catch a strong bid and attempt to push up to those 27. So I'm going to get this order out ready to go if we push up to these 27s. And we're just going to keep taking these 5%. And I'm going to have the order ready. We're going to go 26.9. 26.9, we're going to go right in front of those 27s. But as long as it's above these 26s, we think that this can catch a bid. And 166 lots holding right at these 02s. Took out a good chunk of them right there. But as long as it's above these 26s, we think that these buyers can come on in. I will say intraday gapped. So when this move to the upside ends, I am fully expecting this to pull back to at least 25.71. Actually, I wouldn't even mind if it just went down there real quick right now. Just fill that intraday gap real quick. That way, shorts don't look at this and say, "Oh yeah, I can get it at least back to that area." So I don't want any type of catalyst where shorts can say, "Oh yeah, that's it." The more, and here we are, 26.5s. Ooh, ooh. That was some good size that came in on the ask as it rejected those 26 fives. I seen 1,200 lots. Uh, let's see if I can take out those 1,200 lots at 26 fives, and maybe that's where I want to put this limit sell order. Uh, it's still really not that much, saying that this is a 26-cent stock, but at the end of the day, that's still quite a bit of lots. That's over 100,000 shares, and now it's stacked. So the bid's stacked at those fives at over 2,000 lots now. But that is also a catalyst where if it gets over top of those fives, that this could catch a bid to the upside right here. But a lot of size stacked on that as soon as I was able to see it. And here we're back at these same lots. We're able to take out, we're taking chunks of them out. We're taking chunks of them out here at fives. This is where it gets real dicey both ways. Because if you take that size out and it keeps ripping, you don't know who's really going short off of that area. But if there is a big order going short off of fives, then when he starts losing money, he's got to make a decision. But if he keeps making money, if it keeps giving this movement to the downside, then he's able to make a lot of money and hold a large position to the downside. Uh, so that's kind of why I wanted to see that intraday gap kind of give up, because maybe I haven't seen any size like that going on the ask since we intraday gapped right there. At least on the ask side, I haven't. So I mean, um, so take that with a grain of salt. For all I know, we ripped through that. For all I know, we never get back up there again. It's all tough to say. But these 26s are getting close to the giving up. Uh, a lot of time left in this candle. Come on, get down to that intraday gap. Get down there. There we go. Okay, so now we just want to see some buyers come in the middle of this. We are slightly below this first little sell window that we have, but buyers coming in off of the top of this green move. Now that we have that intraday gap fill, let's see if we can go push back up to those half orders. If we can chip away some more, it did chip away 500 some lots or so. So if it can get back up there, uh, I think it's potential that we could get some continuation. And I know I keep saying continuation a lot, but when you get it moving like this, you want the momentum to stay strong. You want to continue seeing buyers jump in on the name. You want to see buyers, oh, I want a piece of this move. I want a piece of this move. When you have the entry down here, you love it when people are willing to buy it at a higher price. And now, right back over those 26s. Alright, we have a few lots on 26s, not too many. We have 90 lots. And now back over those 26s with a little bit of a green candle, and this is what I'm talking about right here. Let's get back up to those halves where we think that, if it gets over that, we can catch a bid up to the top end right here. And, even if it gets to 27s and starts rejecting it, then we'll be saying, hey, our 702 is up here at 28. Right back into these 26s, not much size on the bid, but still holding 26s for now. Now that we do have that intraday gap filled, if it does get underneath of that, we think that, we could be seeing some movement back into the downside. Candle is red for now. We still have 8 minutes left on the candle, so nothing to really worry about too much yet. But now we are underneath of the closing price of that candle. Are these same buyers going to be able to step on in? I'm gonna move this alert up just a little bit underneath of the low of this candle, call it 25.38. Well, just so I can come back to it if it comes back. So the next name is an energy name, DQ, and we crossed over that very quickly. I just gotta make sure that this isn't really just tanking. You have some good size on the bid. They got eaten up right away. Back into these 25s. All the ways back in. So now all I'm looking for, now that I see this candle, with 7 minutes left, more than likely enough buying isn't going to come on in. So let's see if some buyers can come in. Let's start with this wick high. Maybe we need to pull back down to here before we go. But a nice red engulfing candle coming on in. Are we going to be able to see some buying pressure come in and hold these levels in here? I don't know, but we're going to find out. And just because we see this red candle coming on in, there's nothing to really panic about yet, in my opinion. The position is still very well in the money, but I can go cancel off this 26.9 order, which seemed more possible here. And this is also good information that I'm able to take in. I was able to identify the amount of size that was coming in off those 26 halves, where the high of the candle is 26 half. Uh, it went down, filled the entry gap. It tried the reclaim 26s, and it wasn't. That was an area, that was a period where I could have said, hey, let's just throw a few stops in underneath 26. Or for penny stocks, you gotta do it right on the penny itself. But all in all, we're pretty confident that this isn't going to turn into a red trade for us. But if I was able to mark some stuff out, I would say that you probably have a legitimate catalyst for a channel, something like that. So as long as it comes back in and holds these levels, maybe we can try a reload. We're not going to try the reload on a full red engulfing candle, but if it starts showing some wicks, and then the next candle continues to show wicks, maybe this is an area where we can average into the play. Good information to go off of right there. Obviously looking back, we could have taken some more off right there. But right in this area, we were able to take off a good chunk of size. Where was that top fill that we had? Our largest out share wise was at that 25 cent, but I wasn't really trying to take off that much size when I did. I accidentally put one extra zero. That's unfortunate. But at the end, it is what it is. I mean, now the price is underneath these 25s. I'm probably gonna sit back and say, hey, that 25 fill was a great area to take that size off. So, but who knows? Just like this, we're right back up to 25s, and this is what I was talking about. I want to see that wick of buying show us that. So now if this next candle comes back into this same level, we still have 4 minutes, 30 seconds left, of course, but if we come back into this same level, this is an area where we can think about reloading the name. I'm just going to put an alert right underneath the wick low. I'm pretty content holding this all the ways back into the bottom end of this range. So now let's go back over the DQ. Hopefully that alert doesn't trigger me right away. By looking at the daily, you can see volume really picked up after these earnings. I looked through the earnings, a huge miss is what it's showing, but for a company that can still put up a $1.34 EPS for a $35 stock, uh, oil play over in China. This is a support level that I would look at right here. So this is why we're kind of interested in it. Strength just isn't there. So maybe if it can show us that, hey, we're going to go fill this gap up at 37, well, then if it pulls back in to these 36 at 35 range, maybe this is an area where we can try it. Where oil has been doing very good, you probably have a catalyst for some sort of downtrend and some sort of secondary downtrend right there. So if we catch a bid up to the upper 30s, reject that downtrend, come back in, maybe we can try it off of this support level and hope for a break of this downtrend. So it has a secondary downtrend, it has a downtrend, a secondary downtrend, and another downtrend that's building right here. So a lot of different catalysts that are saying, hey, we're gonna crack below this. Um, but I mean, even looking to their next earnings report, if they can continue putting over $1 EPS for a $35 stock, I think it's a reasonable company to keep on watch. So that's why that made the list for today, just a support level. DVN, we're going to take a look at DVN. Has a decent trend line that this was one that we looked through the earnings report while we were on vacation. We liked the earnings report, continuing the reduced debt, continuing the buyback shares, continuing to increase production. Uh, so if they can continue increasing production and oil continues holding above these 80s, and we think that uh, the trend has really kind of changed on the Nasdaq. Nasdaq is green, okay, it's into its uptrend for today. We're expecting it to catch a bit off its uptrend. Where oil was able to break a downtrend, you can see this clear stair step action that's going on. If this wants to keep making a turn to the upside, when oil really gets going, it gets going. So maybe it needs to pull back in to these middle 70s, but if it does that, I mean, we still think that oil looks very strong. And for those of you that continue to watch my channel, you guys know that we were playing this support level. Boom, 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 boom. We were playing this sort of like a trend line and saying, hey, it hasn't cracked it yet. Let's test it out. And then as it caught a bid and came right back in, hey, let's test it out. Catches a bid, comes back in, hey, let's keep chipping into this. Hey, let's keep chipping into this. And now, kind of getting rewarded. That doesn't mean that I'm a genius, but I will say that oil has been very strong. Where you look at the Nasdaq and early signs of a trend change. You're getting a negative break now. Just because you got that negative break, we're still very close to this middle ground. So keep that in mind that these big players, they're in around these or that middle ground right there. You look at this trend line. I would say that this is still holding a trend where if it keeps following this, it doesn't meet it to the upside, uh, and you do have maybe a double top catalyst taking out the lows in near some resistance. You can see these previous lows over here. That's kind of where this double top comes on in. So a couple different ways of looking at it, but all in all, I think that it's a reasonable case that this could be some sort of trend change, but oil has been strong, so that's why the oil names are staying on there. Geo, you guys know I've been playing Geo around this trend line area. That doesn't mean that it doesn't crack this trend line to the downside. You know, it shows green right here. It caught a bid after the earnings, but I was actually a little bit disappointed with the earnings. Um, they slowed the amount of debt that they paid off. They still didn't buy back shares, and they didn't. They were kind of just flat revenue, which is all right. I thought the earnings were all right, but I wanted to see better for the chart setup that it had. Had it had better earnings, I think we'd be talking about this name possibly up over 8, even up towards that 850. I probably have this 850 marked for 702 retracement, and you can see it right there, right on that 702. So that's where I'm looking for first trims. If this cracks that trend line, I think this is going to be one that we kind of stay committed to in terms of, hey, we have a support level down here. If we are to look back to a weekly, we have this marked for a neckline. I do believe that this is probably your downside risk on this. I don't have the most amount of size, but at the end of the day, if it does come down into like these 350s, I think this is a reasonable setup where you have an extended right leg. One day it's going to backtest the neckline. Why would that backtest the neckline not be able to come in? So it's reasonable to understand where your downside risk is. And one thing that I do like about that neckline is you break it on a nice green candle, you test and hold that level. You have one final test, you catch it a little bit, and it comes right back into that level before we start this sort of uptrend. Where maybe it's something like this, maybe it's something like this. But all in all, we were able to catch a bid all the ways up into the 20s. Which is an extended right leg. As soon as we get over top of this price right here, we're saying that, hey, one day we're going to backtest this neckline. So maybe I'm starting this position a little bit early. But you can see on the daily chart, flirting around this middle ground. We had a positive break on the earnings. If the same buyers can come back in, which it has a nice wick down to those 720s, which is, I would say, a support level. You My bad, headset went out. Which, I would say this could be potentially a trend line and starting to build some sort of channel to the upside. You can see the continuous wicks right there. So if this is some sort of channel, definitely not perfectly set. We still need quite a bit of information, but you can see it wicking into the bottom end of that. So that's why Geo is on the list. And we work still holding. We are on the next candle, and it did leave a nice wick of buying pressure. So now, if we continue leaving those wicks, when candle number 3 comes, if we're anywhere in this range where we got the wick top, or maybe in off of the trend line, this could be a name that we try to average in more. But I think my out on the name to confirm that this stays a green trade is going to be this trend line, where we already have over 50% taken out. If it wants to crack this trend line, okay, we'll get out. Good trade. Time to move on. Just a little bitty wick coming in at the bottom end of this range. Let's move on though. LNGD. Huh. LNGD. And we crossing over. Let's just go find this ticker. Why is it not popping up? That is very strange. Are they just not? Here it is. LGND. I wrote it down on the sticky note wrong. That's why. Down a little bit on the day. But just looking at this as a support level, I didn't mind the earnings report. They had a huge decrease in earnings, but the high margin company, if this is something that wants to hold this support level, okay. If it wants to come back down into these upper 50s, this is getting into that territory where I think this is really fair value for this company. Uh, you know, when you're looking at a pharmaceutical company, they can be very tricky. I still haven't developed anything that I would say, oh yeah, this is how I I would play an investment in a pharmaceutical company. They're very very tricky. And honestly, if I was recommending to somebody I knew, I would say just stay away from the pharmaceutical companies. You don't know. You gotta do a lot of due diligence. You gotta look at what's in the pipeline. You gotta look at uh, the sustainability of either a drug or whatever it is that the company itself does. You gotta have an understanding of how long they're gonna be able to acquire revenue from that. Uh, so honestly, I would just recommend staying away from them. That doesn't mean there isn't money to be made. Amps. Let's take a look at amps. I seen the earnings was all right. This was actually one. We were thinking about playing this gap fill, but it came on in quick. We looked at something else, and then before we knew it, it was back under 6. So now a lot of more volume relative to what it normally does in this stock. But also given the catalyst that, hey, we have a setup for a descending channel. And we also have a crack of the trend line. So if this was a trend line, we are breaking through that on the earnings day. So this is going to be one that I'd say, isn't gonna cut it for me today. We work still looking back at it. You can see it continuing the wick into this area. So let's go ahead and put that same alert back in at the low right there, 23.75. Christopher Schmidt would love to see Snapchat breakdown sometime. Are you still there, Schmidt? I know you probably sent this message, 20 minutes ago, and you're gonna sit there and say you suck at looking at the chat. I know, my bad. I was getting down into some talks. Yeah, I'll gladly look at Snapchat. Um, Snapchat. Off of this look, I'd say stay away. Stay far and clear of it. Yep. You get the gap down from earnings. You try to catch a bid. Tries to hold this level. Your strength is about ready to go oversold. I would say just give it some time. Let it breathe a little bit. Let it present an area. You have a couple points of contact here. I'd say you have legitimate downside risk to this gap. Now, if we're talking about it down here near this trend line, you have a couple gaps here at this 860, 825. This is where I'd say I would be more interested in it. When it was on this sort of uptrend right here, you had a nice catalyst for, hey, you have a previous high right here off of earnings. If on the earnings date it opened up flat right here on this 1250, I would have said, hey, this looks good to catch a bid probably. But a gap down through this strong uptrend that it had from May all the ways to July, I would say that, yeah, you would have been all right. But now you get the gap down. This is where the shorts are at. The big players. This is a perfect example of why I say the big players are at that middle ground. When do we gap down? We gap down, boom, we end negative on the day. We retrace right back up to that zero. This is where we're at. Boom. You don't know who's getting in short right here. Boom, 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 boom. Just a nice slow churn to the downside. If this was flipped upside down and I was punching long, I would say, oh yeah, hold this all day. If I'm in short right now, I'm saying, hey, we're trimming some levels. You had a support level right here. Let's trim it. Well, now today, you're actually even breaking down lower than that. Where I'd say my next level is a trim. You could say you have this little top that we're at right now, but with the negative break, that top, this could be a small trim level for somebody in short. But after that, you have these two green engulfing candles. Boom, I would expect some movement, at least to this previous top right here. So I would say down here from, we'll give it the 9 flat. I would say from 9 down to 825 and then maybe the low. But after that, who knows? Maybe you give up this trend line that you kind of have built right here. And we're talking about, coming all the ways back into this gap. Let's see if this gap was filled here at 705. It was not right there. And right here, it got damn close. Damn close right here. So if you're looking at punching in and sitting long, one, you have to understand, still not profitable yet. Still has a lot of users. A lot of people use Snapchat. Um, But just because it's a good platform doesn't mean that the stock is right. And some people would say manipulation. I would just say momentum. You can buy the most garbage companies out there, and as long as momentum is on your side and more stock is willing to be bought, that price will go up. Well, right now, I would say that more stock isn't willing to be bought right now. That doesn't mean, I would just say the odds are against you trying it right here. Um, Now that doesn't mean that it can't catch a bid. This was a strong move to the upside. I'll clear out my whole chart and we take this move to the upside. This is your 702 that we're coming into. So for all I know, maybe it is a good time to buy. But really not my cup of tea until it shows me more information. I don't know if you're still there. We're 65 minutes in, probably when I started that breakdown. So I'll reach out to you and say, hey, 65 minutes into the live stream, go ahead, take a look at it. Appreciate you tuning in, Schmidt Bucket. But let's go back over to we. We still holding this 24 range. MF was a name that we had written down. We'll get to that. APT. Let's see how this flat top play was working out. No volume that comes into this play. But still trading right here around this flat top. And you can see the flat top at this 4 level. Strength is there. You just, no volume. That's the only thing that is going against you on this. But, it is a profitable company. That was why I put it on the map for a sticky note name, is because, hey, they were at least profitable. It has a nice flat top that probably in around some of these lows right here. If it can continue holding that, I wouldn't be surprised to see it try to catch a bid. But another thing is you probably have some sort of downtrend meeting in right here around this 4 level. So a couple of different ways of looking at it. But all in all, I would say not terrible. But not something that I'm going to try today. Moving on, BMBL. Now, Bumble, you're going to be like, Bumble? I, I actually think that this is a reasonable company. High margin, profitable. Their free cash flow margin is a lot better than what it seems. Uh, and if they're actually starting to buy back shares too. Strength just isn't there, but if this was some sort of early start to a trend line, uh, if this were to start catching a bid, it's gonna have to work through 17s again. But I would say the bottom end 16 right off this gap, and that's why it's on the map too. You wick through that gap, you wick through it again. Now you open right at that gap, and actually a green candle. So not a half bad look on Bumble, but by all means, I would say probably give it a little bit of time. I'm just saying that I like the earnings report. I like a lot of earnings reports, and they go down. I like a lot of earnings reports, they go up. I hate a lot of earnings reports, they go up. I hate a lot of earnings reports, they go down. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's just if more liquidity is willing to buy it, then it's gonna go up. So that's what I'll say about that. We crossing back over. Let's go take a look at it. We are coming into the tail end of this candle. A larger red engulfing candle. So with a minute left, I want to see a wick of buying. Try and get it back up above this wick high right here. Uh, which it's starting just a little bit. We only have a minute left in this candle. That doesn't mean that it's all roses. I would say that we gave up a lot of our games, but we also took a lot of the piece off. And my first fill on the name is actually right about where we're at. Let's actually go take a look at that and see where that first fill, our first trim on the name came in at. It was 23.86. So now, as of right now, if I were to buy back everything that I sold, we took clean profit. Every fill that we've had from this moment here, uh, the price is over top of where it's at right now. So that's a positive way of looking at it. We're trimming the right levels, and now that's coming back in. And this is what in the back half of this candle, I said I wanted to see that wick get over top of the previous wick right there. So now on this third candle, and we do have 2 candles of decreasing volume. 3 seconds left on the candle. And this should be a candle close right there above that wick. So everything is passing the test of right now. Now starting as a green candle, but it's still going to have to fight through the body of this red move, the top of that red move, and the body of the candle before. And then still probably the wick. So you can see a little bit of selling pressure coming into the middle of that red candle. That's probably, if I had to guess, some selling of somebody that got a good entry right here. There's taking a little bit of profit off, and I'm expecting these same buyers that came in right here to come on in. If it gets down to this range, which call it 23.5, is really where I'd like to get the order for a reload, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen that way. So now let's put an alert in for when this candle turns red. Right there. So even though it's catching a bid right now, if that candle does turn red, we are going to get alerted, and we're going to be ready to try some reloads. Everything passes the rules. We have increasing volume to the upside. We have still some buying that's coming in this red candle wick, but still decreasing volume. Still some buying coming in at the tail end right there, which is as well decreasing volume. So now the candle has turned slightly red. Like I said, it's going to have to fight. Even though it was a full green engulfing candle, you're right in the middle of this red move to the downside. Let's see if this can crack down and we can play this aggressively right here. So let's we have this alert set in. We're not going to be averaging in up here. We're trying to get it as close to this 23.5 as possible. So let's go look a little bit more. Bristol Myers Squibb Company. Of course, it's up a 0.5%, which you're like, 0.5%, who cares? Um, Volume increase. This trend line has not moved. You guys have my word. Because honestly, I don't see any other way to put this trend line. Boom, 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 boom. So I would say it has this sort of wedge pattern from its all-time high price right there. If you're looking at a company in that pharma space, I would say buy a. And it doesn't mean go and buy BMY. Uh, but buy one that has been around for a long time. You're looking at Bristol Myers. They've been around since 1970. Long sustainable growth, pays a 4% dividend, give or take. The earnings, you're putting up EPS of $1.75, which, completely covers the share price, covers the dividend handsomely, and they're expected to put up $1.82 in the next quarter on good revenue. They are a little bit on the higher side of debt, but off of this trend line, if you're looking at a legitimate long-term play, uh, in this space, I'd say if this continues to hold 60, the closer to 60, the better. If it goes against you, okay, you can start looking at some support levels. But if you're looking at a true punch in long and let it sit, you have a gap fill right there that you can buy the downside, and a gap fill right there to the downside. So let's say you try a 1% position off this trend line and it goes against you. Okay, let's average in a little bit. Okay, let's average in a little bit. Before you know it, maybe it's down at 50 flat. Let's just mark 50 flat with a horizontal line. Yeah, I'd say 50 flat. I would say you're on the bottom end. If this was looked at as a range that it's been trading in right here, I would say you're near the bottom end of that range. Yes, you're off of the long-term uptrend, but if they put up $1.82 EPS, let's just say they put up $1.50 of EPS every quarter. That equals $6 a year. At 50 bucks, we'll do 6 divided by, or 50 divided by 6. You're looking at paying off your investment in 8 1/3 years. Uh, that's pretty dang good. Saying that you're getting a dividend on top of that of 57 cents. That I'm sure is increasing as well. So 54, 3 cents of 54 is what, 7.5% dividend increase. So you're also getting some dividend increase on top of that. So I'd say a pretty decent look right there. And looking back over at holding as a green candle for now. Light volume still. So we still have a decent amount of time on this candle. Where's the list that I had? Oh, here we go. This is the list that has some names that I would like to talk about right here. Let's just start with the first one, Lumen. We got alerted on Lumen earlier, and it looks like it got as low. We were looking at this for the 77 retest, which was a break, kind of a neckline break right there. You're putting in higher highs or higher lows. You have a trend line. We were saying that, off of this area right here would not be a terrible idea. And we just, on the live stream on Friday, we just got done getting fills at 198 and 2 flat right into this downtrend. So this is one that we're looking to reload more shares into. Strength just isn't quite there, but you can see it kind of coiling. Uh, Off their earnings, the earnings really weren't the greatest. I didn't really like them, but I still think that this company kind of trades at a premium for a company that is profitable. On a GAAP basis, they took a lot of losses, but on a non-GAAP basis, still reported 10 cents of EPS for a. If they put up, 5 cents a quarter, that's 25 cents a year. We're looking at 8 years to pay off in its investment, but you can see the bull flag. You can see here's your pull, pulling back into the middle of that move. Here's that flat top, and we is crossing over. This is why we didn't want to force into it. Let's go back over to we. 8 minutes left on this candle. The buyers continue to keep coming in off these 24s. So let's go ahead and put that alert back in off 24 flat. I was hoping that this was coming back on in into those 23s, but not yet. Not yet. So that was Lumen. You see the catalyst that we're looking for, and I think that it's decent look. Now MF, this was a trade that we said, hey, the volume since it really started breaking out up here has been super light, super light. Well, now we're starting to show little early signs of a little bit of volume increase. Still only 56K in that, but early signs. If this pulled back in to like 180s, I'd say it might be reasonable, but I'm going to be patient. I'm going to try and play this trend line. You can see here's the Monday. We wanted to see it come down in to these 150s and respect this. So we're right here, this is the level we're rejecting is these lows. You see that? Just marking those lows. That's where we're at right now. We're showing a red candle consolidation. So I'm going to be greedy and say, hey, let's see if we can get this down in near this trend line. But MF, looking at the daily, large strength of 216. And I'd say this level right here that we're marking this sort of uptrend is a catalyst where if it pulls back into here, this could be something that we look at. So that's MF. Let's look at PAGs. PAGs, I'm looking as a long-term long-term play. We do not own PAGs. Strength just isn't there yet. I wanted to see it hold this trend line. Well, now I'm seeing that, it's not holding that trend line. But coming into the earnings, if this is trading in around this 9 flat area, we are going to be playing this gap fill at 9 against the trend line. You're going to be like, wow, against the trend line? Um, Compounding growth quarter after quarter. EPS, they haven't been buying back shares with the capital that they have, which is all right. You don't have to be buying back shares. I'd prefer it. Uh, but a company where, okay, we're projected 825. Last year we put up 742. The year before that. So we're looking at 2 years ago, almost a double up in revenue, and the stock price has shoom to the downside on no dilution. They haven't diluted at all. And looking 2 years back, right there, 20 cents of EPS, 26 cents of EPS. So a double in revenue and a 26% increase in EPS. They still have to put the numbers up, of course, but high margin company, financial sector. I know Stoney's a name you guys have seen me trade before. STNY. This is a competitor that they have in Brazil, and this one has held up decently. I will be looking at this earnings report after hours. But these two companies, I think there's a lot of potential in that emerging market for Brazil. So that's what we're going to have our eyes on. TSHA. Let's just take a look at this today because it is still holding a large gain, putting in a couple green candles over top of the body of the candle for right now. A lot of volume coming into this. Current candle's at 440K. Halted to the upside. Wasn't able to close anything. Halted to the upside in this candle and then halted to the downside. And kind of had this sort of descending channel, give or take something like that, where you have this descent channel. Now you're kind of breaking that tight channel right in off that 21. UCAR, I did not see this one popping off. But if this one pulled back in, if you were playing this for a bull flag, you could have something there. GNS was a name that we wrote down, but gaps up. We were looking for it to come back in, sort of playing this like a trend line, but not giving us the opportunity, but also a possible ascending channel right here. So it's like, is it going to be able to break that or not? You can see it hasn't even been able to close above that, even with it being up 40%. So asking a lot there. But you can see the continuation that it has gaps up, doesn't fill the gap, it gets the continuation. We still holding those 24s. Looking at this current candle, we have 3 minutes left. Indecision candle. So, now that we're on candle number 3, I would like to see this come on uh, in underneath of these 24s on this candle. We have 2 minutes 50 seconds left. MF breaking over that 2. So buyers coming in the middle of that candle, breaking over top of these previous lows. If this really wanted to get going, I'd say you have room up to that 260s. But let's start with these highs right here. You can see it gaps down and kind of sets this the pace here at 225. So I'd say you have some good movement to still grab up to that 225 from 204. I mean, it doesn't look like much more of a run, but that's still another 12%. Not a half bad look. Now let's go to some other names. Ramp. Ramp was a flat top break that we didn't pull the trigger on last week. But you're going to see, I must have cleared the chart. You're going to see the flat top right here, where this is where we're looking for at the pullback. And you can see indecision. So if this is the pull from the earnings, boom, 1, 2, 3. Does this 3 continue to hold 30? And does it catch a bid and break higher? You can see a strong name has a nice uptrend that's been holding, which on the earnings day, I'm sure you had some people that are saying, yep, we're looking for on these earnings to gap down. And now that take out this flat top, we're looking at this as, somebody that's in short is still potentially stuck. So if they're stuck in that position, if this builds that U-shaped ramp, to me, I think should be on watch if we're looking for some possible extensions. Let's just start with this wick low right here, which is up at 33. Now you're like, 30 to 33, not much. Yeah, it's 10%. Where you can start taking your first outs. If you're lucky, you can run it up to this next low, which has some high wicks. Kind of a flat bottom break. It's holding it, fills the gap, breaks it, and rejects it to the upside. So I'd say this is a legitimate sell window right here. So if we're talking at potential orders for that, here's your 10% to that first trim. Your next trim level is 25 to 30%. Not a half bad look. That is ramp. That is ramp right there. Next name that we have SNMP. And we crossing over that. Is this in that current candle? Oh man, it continues to get. Oh, there we go. Right in here. 25 seconds left. I don't like the selling pressure that it has and the candle that's leaving right here. So let's see it push down just a little bit further and show us that wick of buying. Now we have the open of the next candle. This is where we've been patient. We said we were going to go over some tickers while we were waiting for this to pull back in. Now we've waited for it to pull back in. Let's set an alert off of these 24s. We'll go 23.95. That alerts us. We're going to come back to it and we're going to have the order ready to go on the other screen. We only have a couple names left to go over. SNMP. SNMP. No volume on the name, down 12%. Kind of giving up the level, but I'd say your risk reward right here is alright. I mean, it still has a chance of closing above this 450. So looking at the 15-minute, it's just no volume though. So I mean, a big ask. So probably nothing there. TNGX. Giving up that trend line right there. It caught a bid originally, was in a wedge pattern, now giving up and now rejecting the bottom end. Let's go back over. We're just going to start small. We'll start with a right there. We'll start with the right there. You guys like that? Oh man, I just put it in off those 23/8. Man, there we go. We got the fill on that 23/8. And now let's go in for a little bit more and get ready for this 23/5. Getting ready for these 23/5s, getting ready for the 23/5s, and then we're giving it the trend line for our out. So our last order, 23/5s, and we're giving it the trend line. We'll give it 23s. If it gets underneath 23s, we are going to be out of this. And we think that this has a possibility of catching a bid here. And I know you're like, dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? There's 23/5s. We don't have a fill yet, though. No fill off those 23/5s. Did we get the fill off at 23/5? Let's take a look. The low of the candle shows 23/5s. We didn't get the fill, though. Man, this 23/5s was the bigger order. Ah, come on. Man. Man, so close. Man, we should have had those 23/5s. It tapped it. Now back over 24s, just like that. Man, that doesn't mean that's out of the water yet. You know, still has a good ways to go for this to kind of take out some levels, but decreasing volume all the ways through, it has a pretty decent look. Uh, got some orders jumping in. We had 100 lots on 8. Man, it tapped the low right there. We should be in off of that. That is such bogus. That is such bogus right there. Not over yet though. $190 lots here. Off at 88. Of course, my dog. You guys know my dog loves to interrupt me as soon as I start doing something. Why is it every single time I start doing something around this time in the day that he has to do something? Now that does not make sense. This is Chewbacca. You going in on we today? We've been in on we H. I told you from the beginning. Had 10%, took out F23. We're in off 22s. We just hit a reload off of these 68s where we got a fill. We were on the bid at 23/5s. Tapped it. As you can see it up here at the lows right here. You can see 23/5 was the low. Just didn't get the fill. TSHA is where it's at. I like it at 1. But I did have this tight descending channel drawn in right here. Nice break of that channel. I'd say, you know, you probably have a good one if you're in off of TSHA. I would say you probably have a good one. But I'm working we. We've taken pretty good off of it, and we should be getting this 23/5. We're giving it down to these 23s. If we end up getting stopped out these 23s again, so be it. But 23/5 should have gave us a fill right here. I'd say it's pretty impossible for this trade to go red on us. Unless it just halted to the downside and gapped all the ways down. And we still don't have this 23.5 fill yet. You gotta be kidding me right now. It sat there at 23.5s and we still don't have this fill. That is absolute insanity. Let's just move it up to 23.55. Oh my god, now it moved up to 23.63. Give me the fill. That's all I care. I don't even really. There we go. We got the fill. So let's go get ready for an exit of this position. If it works, it works. If it don't, it don't. Don't jinx yourself. Laugh out loud. It's the only way I lose money is if this halts down and opens down here at 20s. Our best print on the day is like a 26.4. So you know, whatever it does. But looking at TSHA, I'll go to the daily chart. Where I would like it is back down in here off of this flat top break. So here, kind of a flat top or flat bottom break, reject, reject, and then gap up over it. I'm looking for this to come back down into, and then the top range is 109. So it's on the watch now. If it goes for it, then it goes for it. But I like this Wii setup that it has. You know, we have an ascending channel right there, but the reason why I like it in the first place is just a nice channel hold right here. But all we did with the last two orders we did was bought back shares that we had already sold. So our first sell on the name came in at 23.86, and we had trims all the ways up to 26.4, and my first reload came in at 23.68, and we just got a 23.55. So that's what we're looking for. I don't believe in jinxing. Either more liquidity is going to get bought right here than sold, or it's not. So five minutes, 30 seconds left on the candle. Down the 23s, right in off this flat top. I'd say anything under 23s, I'm probably just going to get out of it. So we'll give it a small chance for it to hold right here, but we are hovering over this sell button. I'm sure you're probably saying something right now, but my off screen is occupied right now. And good buying coming in off of that flat top, or closer to that flat top, call it a 23. 4 minutes, 30 seconds left. We'll see if this can hold this trend line here or not. If it can't, it can't. If it does, great. I'm just going to clear everything. I have a decent understanding of these levels. Good size, stacking up. Took those out pretty quick though, but still above these 23 quarters. And now that it's tapped these 23s, with these penny stocks, you got to go every penny. So now with this current order, we're just going to stop loss the position out at 23s because we're saying to ourselves that if it does get back down there, we are looking to get out. And with even the reloads that we just hit in right there, we still take out a nice green trade from the entry that we had, and considering the wash sale that we had from before. So we got the stop loss in. Now I feel comfortable looking around elsewhere. Now I only had a few more names that I wanted to go over. I was on TNGX, which was one of the names that we are not going to be trading. But Taiwan Semiconductors, looks like it didn't get down to my order, but this is going to be one that we are watching for the week. You can see we have a wedge pattern to the upside. I'm looking at this as a value play. Strength is not there, so this is one I'm trying against strength. Now, I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the company that you're trading, understand the sustainability that they have. And I'm saying that I believe Taiwan Semiconductors is undervalued at 90, and I'm willing to bet against the house by going against strength. So if we get down to this 90 gap, this is going to be a name that we are playing. Whether it's the right play or not, we think we have a catalyst for a trend line, and we have a gap meeting in, and we also have an undervalued company in our eyes. So those are the two catalysts that we are looking at there. And WeWork is still holding this a little bit of range right here. Is it going to be able to catch a bid to the upside? It's going to be tough to tell. It might even need to pull underneath 23 briefly before it catches a bid, but 23 is going to be the out. TSHA. Yeah, nice tight channel. Nice break of that channel. If it pulled back in, you could start with, the wick tops if you really wanted to, or the open price. That's a early order. You'd probably get the fill. If you wanted to go off the wick tops 160, you still probably get the fill. If you wanted to go off the body candle right in front of this 150, I can't say you're going to get that fill, but that would probably be an all right entry. And if that entry goes against you, you have that 150 level, which is this wick top of the first move that breaks that downtrend. So a couple different ways of looking at it. I'd say, it could have some good continuation. Just not my cup of tea. Doesn't mean there's not money to be made. But when you're dealing with a large gap above 120%, you have a gap fill here at 164. I'm just not interested in playing it on this first day. Like I said, that doesn't mean that there isn't money to be made. And then the last name, VFC. This was we went through 4 sticky notes on the day. Actually, there's only 2 tickers on the last sticky note. VFC, playing strength, playing volume increase after the earnings. A nice move to the upside. You have a gap fill right here at 20. It wicked down pretty dang close, so I'm going to alert this. And I think this is a reasonable continuation play that we're going to be looking at right here. So if I do get alerted, I am probably going to go play this name. Trying to buy leading up into this earnings report, but we like the earnings even though they were not profitable. High margin company, and I think around this level right here, it showed that it could get over top of these lows. It kind of gave that false look right here. It looked like it was increasing volume. Well, now we're actually getting some true volume increase compared to relative what it does. About averaging 9 million a pop right here. So candle number 1, I'd call this a pullback candle. If we average in off this gap and it doesn't work for us, we're going to be averaging more in off of this sort of neckline break, 19 and two-thirds, give or take. Working for us, 2380 is what I just seen. It looks like we held strong. So now intraday gaps up right there. Has a tight channel. We just want to see it break this channel now. And it probably is maybe a wedge pattern. Maybe. But I'm just going to make this into a channel like this. 23.85. Let's see if this can reclaim 24s. If it reclaims 24s, this could be where we could take some size off because you have these wick lows that were trying to hold 24s. You also have the body candle right here. So you can see it starting to wick up into that area a little bit. So I'm going to get ready to replace that stop loss order that we have and just take a piece off if it gets up to there. If I wanted to take the whole reload off, I could do that. But I think we're just going to start, and we're going to be more aggressive taking some size off right here. So let's just go ahead and do so right now. Ring the register, and that is a 1/8. That's a 12.5% cut from the original size, and ringing the register working for us right now. But let's see if it can hold these 24s. Now, over 24s, I want to see some bids stack on 24s. And let's just see if this can hold. Let's put one stop underneath 24s right here. Nope, we're gonna keep it. We're gonna not put that in. But we are gonna stay in tune with this because now, as of right now, we do not have a stop loss in. So let's see if it can hold these levels. If it comes back into these halves, we can think about buying that 12.5% back again. But now bid stacking back above these 24s. It doesn't show it on the chart in front of me, but we are going to stop loss some shares, which would be a 5%. So we're going to stop loss some at these 24s. If that fills, it fills. Good size stacking above these 24s, protecting our stop loss here. And there we probably just got stopped out of some shares here at these 24s. Let's see if we did. We got 23.99, where the first fill that we had was a 24.01. We're just going to keep rinsing and repeating that. If there's 500 lots on 23.9. So let's see if it can reclaim 24s and we can get another stop loss in off those 24s. Right back in the 23.5s. Let's see if we can play a little aggressive right here and get an order. We're going to have to use a limit. It's very spready right here. So we're going to go 23.55. 23.55. If that can fill, we are going to buy those shares back. And if that does fill, we are going to immediately, I mean immediately, get ready to cut this thing. We do not want to see 23 halves give up. But we were able to ring the tape on some shares there. And we have a potential of getting some shares back as well, which would give us the full size again. $23.55 is also what protects this order from going red, or the candle from going red. So maybe I could put that up to 23.6. I just want to see it get back over 24s. And there we're back over 24 size. Ooh, slightly had 200 lots stacked over those 24s. Just briefly. Still trying to fight. There's only 4 lots on 24s. It's going to take them out right now. Let's see it stack on 24s, and let's get ready to put that stop loss in. I'm going to cancel that order off at 23.55s. We have 300 lots on 24s, which is not very much to take out. You can easily do that. And right back in. So we have our order for a buy canceled. I think we're just content with the position that we have right now. If we were going to get it, we wanted to get it when it was down there that first time. Now if it gets down there this second time, just because it works once doesn't mean it's going to work again. So we're content with the order. If it gives up these halves, we're just going to put that 23 stop back in. Let's just go ahead and do so right now. We're going to get that 23 stop order in. Right back up to those 24s, so immediately if it starts getting orders stacked above 24, which it does, I want to see a little bit more size though. We are going to stop some, and we'll go with a little bit more than 12% this time. Okay, so we have our order ready to put in. We just need to see some orders stack above 24s. $61 lots on 24s. 61 lots on 24s. Are we going to get this sort of breakthrough above the body of this candle, which the body of this candle opens at 24.11. So we want to see a price get back over 24.11. Now we have some lots stacking over 24s. We have 55 lots on 02s. Now at ones, oh, that was very close. That was very close. And it does have that full green engulfing candle, so we're going to put that stop in at these 24s now. And now we have some shares that we can start trimming out. So if this is right up at that wick top right there. The next level that we're seeing is 25, so we can start going in front of 25. Let's do 24.75 if we can get there. You know, this is our best fill since the order. So let's just go ahead and take a small piece off right there. Ring the register. We should have got 21s right there. Let's go take a look. We got a great fill right there. 24.34s ringing the register on some more shares, and we have her stop in at 24s. So if we get even more size taken off right here, I'm not against trying to buy some more shares back at these halves now. Because we're gonna get stopped if it gets down there. Ooh, it got very close. It got down the O2s right there. I really don't want to see that stop at 24 trigger. It's only for a trim, so keep that in mind. It's only for a trim. And it was protected, so the longs are protecting those 24s for right now. That's a good sign. Doesn't mean they're going to protect it forever, though. But getting those 24.34s was a good fill. Five minutes left in this candle. You know, honestly, if it closed a candle like this, I'd be okay. If it starts wicking underneath those 24s and leaves a candle, it's going to be tough. I would say it's in the middle ground. The fight is definitely taking place in this range. Oh boy, we have a. Oh, I just went over to my chat. Geez, we got a lot here. We looks good. VWAP at 24.24. I don't care about VWAP. 30K on 24. Hold this thing. Welcome back, Rudy. Mr. Drift. Good to see you, brother. Yeah. I've been back for a little bit now, but still getting into the swing of things. TSHA broke out. Yeah, I see it's up at that 172. Beautiful. Uh, You'll have to let me know if you're playing that anywhere. Very choppy today with the SPY being unpredictable. Um, I will go into that as soon as I get into a reasonable area where I can talk about it. I gotta see if I'm gonna get triggered out of some shares here at 24s, or if I'm gonna catch this bid up to 50s and maybe the top end. So here's 24s. We probably just got stopped out for that little bit of trim right there, and we did right off of 24 flat. So ringing the register, hey, you can't complain with taking a little bit of profit. Let's see if these 24s can hold. Let's see how much shares we got left. Okay, we still have what is that? What is that? We still got about 70% of the position, so we've taken 30% off since the reloads, and maybe if I see some shares start holding above these 24s again, we can try and put some more stops at that 24. Just keep securing the profit. But doesn't look like it's going to as of right now, so I am going to be ready to cut this thing if it gets underneath the 23s. We don't want to see it get underneath 23s. And there the 24 is given up near the last bit of this candle. Not too much size stacking in on the ask, which is alright. Still anybody's game here. There's only 35 lots, now 45 lots stacking on 99. So we got a couple different order sizes that's going to need to fight through. Still the same 45 lots on 99s, and I'm sure it has some lots off of 24 flat. Let's see if it can keep fighting through these. And there's 24s, a reclaimed 24s, and 1,500 lots. 1,400 lots holding those 24s. Now let's get that stop loss back in underneath of those 24s again. And let's see if we can get a little bit more size above those 24s. We've already stopped out 2 different trims off of 24, so let's just be patient this time. That was a lot of size that stacked on that 24 this time. Uh, Whether that means it's going to continue to the upside or not, I don't know. And there we go. So now let's get a little bit of a stop loss in off of 24s now that we have some shares protecting that. And securing out some more profits if those get triggered out. It is what it is. But now we're looking for, we got 2 minutes left in this candle. This could easily come into this next top range channel break up to 25. My next profit area is probably going to be the middle of that move right here at 70s. So we are going to get ready to have some fun. Bid stacked at 25s, 24, 25s. Are we going to see some breakthrough up to those 50s? Still sticking with the same 5% trims. But let's see it actually push up to those 50s this time. I can't even remember. Did I put any type of stop in at those 24s? Yes, we did. Just another 5% trim if it gets back underneath. And bid stacking. Tight, tight, tight spread. We like seeing a tight spread. Buyers are trying to push this up. We're going to go on the ask at 24 half. Order is placed. Let's see if we can get that fill. And right back into 24s. Do not stop me out of those shares at 24s. Hold it. It may have already done so. Nope, held strong. Buyers holding it up. We need to see some orders start stacking. $15 seconds left. This is where we got to see some holds. Up to 3s. $61 lots protecting this. This should be a close of this candle. Let's see if we can see some movement to the upside. Very light volume, but still in control of the shorts potentially. So that is all right. But it made a good step holding above those 24s. So we'll see if we can get some movement to the upside here. 155 lots holding 2410s. Alright, looks like we're in a little bit of a standstill. 157K at 24s. We headed into a recession this September. Maybe. Possibly. It really doesn't change too much for me, actually. I'd probably rather prefer it. I want to see some of these stocks get into some better pricing. You know me, Drift. I think that the market's way overvalued for the type of growth that we are projecting. And I'm in on the NASDAQ short. So I would be all right with it. Whether it happens or not, I think it's just a word that people keep tossing around to get some attention. Whether it's some guy talking on an interview or some YouTuber talking about it or some old Joe at your job talking about it. It's just a word people throw around. At the end of the day, it doesn't really change anything that I'm going to be doing. But maybe. Maybe. Oh, and there's our 24.50 fill. Let's see if we can get some continuation to the upside. Yes, sir. Let's go. Let's get ready to take some off at 25s. We're going to go right on the ask at 25s. And let's see if what the tape's looking like right here. So ringing the register, let's see if our stop also held. Our stop also held at 24s. So that gives us a little leeway to raise that stop up if we reclaim 25s. We're actually going to start taking off 2.5%ers for markets here as it's holding these 8s just in case we don't get these 25s. So we took off another 2.5 right there. That was a 24.81, so ring the register. There has been a lot of register ringing this morning, Drift. I can give you the breakdown, but we tried this off of like 23.25 early in the morning. We had some good prints as it was running. We ended up stopping out some shares at 23s, which is all right. We ended up reloading a good chunk of size in on this consolidation bottom. We said that, hey, we had this sort of uptrend. If it goes against us, we're going to average in more size off of this trend line and see how it works. Well, it started working for us, and we started ringing the register at 23.86, rang it all the way up to 26.4 was the best print that we had on the day, and we were on the ask at 26.5s, didn't get it. We waited patiently all the ways for this candle where we got 23.68 for our first fill, and then we were on the bid at 23 half. And it tapped it. I just couldn't get the fill. And then we finally said, okay, we're moving it up to 23.55. Well, then it moved all the way back into 23. We didn't panic. We waited. As soon as it caught this bid back up to here, we said, okay, now we can put the stop in at 23s. The stop holds beautifully. We got stopped out of about 15% off these 24s. Which is all right. We had some fills up at 24.30s, and then we just got a 24.50 and a 24.81 fill, and we're on the ask at 25s. So having a lot of fun with this name today, but that is the breakdown for it. Drift. Hopefully these recessions has been great for my portfolio. I agree. Wise man once said that what's this saying? Hold on. I just watched this interview last weekend. It has something to do with the bad being opportunity. Bad being opportunity. If the market were to shoot down 50%, there is opportunity there. Where are you going to be on the side that capitalizes from it? Or are you going to be on the side that panics, bitches, cries, complains, you name it? You can take it a negative route or you can take it a positive route. Me, I'm all for the positivity. And I'm at a very interesting part of my life where anybody bringing negative energy to me, boom, cut out, gone. I don't want nothing to do with you. Get the you know what out. And I that's just where I'm at right now. You either believe in me whether I'm right or wrong, or get away. I want nothing to do with you. So maybe I'm coming off as hostile, but that's just the part of my life that I'm at right now. Whether it's a crossroads that I'm trying to fight through or not, but that's the direction that I'm taking. I don't know how we went from a recession talk to me talking about that. Maybe I'm just, hyped because the trade's working for me, or maybe I'm just, having one of those days. I don't know. But yeah, in terms of a recession, if we got one, I would look at it as great opportunity to capitalize for my future. Looking at we still, let's get back focused on it. Sorry for ranting on. You know me, Drift. You know when I get going. Uh, one, I'm gonna speak my mind, and two, it's hard to get me to stop, especially when you're not in the room or on the mic talking to me. I just have an open floor to myself. It's hard to get me to stop talking. Looking at Tush or Tisha, gave that little breakout test up towards two. Now coming back in, I'd say with more information, nice volume increase right here, but also uh, picking up on the volatility to the downside. I still think that this open price up here at these 164s, which is the line I marked way to the left, which is the gap. I'd say as long as it's holding above that gap fill, this could actually be a potential short squeeze. You don't know who got in short off of that gap that either got wicked out or stopped out. But then I will say the next level that I would have been looking for would have been these lows. I would have looked at this as a flat bottom break and just tapping it right there. It's possible that is the wick high. And I wouldn't bet against this bull flag and go short. But it is interesting that I marked those lows, and you can see the resistance that it's having off of that area. Full red engulfing candle back into those 64s, where, is this going to be an area where it's opportunity? But you can see that increase in volume right there. Picked up quite a bit off of just one 5-minute candle and coming right back in. Still wicking into those 164s. I don't know if you would have got the fill or not, but I would say that um, this is one that I would just be careful with. And we kind of given that same wick top right here, coming back in the 24s. So this is why we wanted to get those fills. And if 24s want to stop us out of some shares, it is what it is. I'm gonna keep that 25 order in off right now, or in for the time being right now. But let's go look at the position size that we have. Okay, still sitting in the money, fairly decent. It's showing our cap as we're cutting more of the first shares or these initial shares that we bought. My cost average is increasing. It has my cost average at a 23. So as of right now, a cut at 23s puts me out even. But as we keep trimming, these shares that we reloaded up here are going to be the new average. So I would say it's almost impossible for this to go red on us. It would have to halt to the downside in some way, shape, or form. Or if it halted to the downside and opened in at like 22, here's your initial trend line that you're working off of anyways. So I don't even know if I would be interested in trying to cut right there. Trying to hold these 2450s. Volume really still hasn't picked up yet either. So, the candle before was 243. This candle is 214. If we can still see some continuation, if this next candle takes out these 25s, I think you're going to see a nice green candle attempt to get up here. Now, if we take out this high on increased volume from this candle, I would say continuation all day. If it has low volume when it's right around this level, it would be potential to think about exiting the position, in my opinion. TSHA, wicking into that level, 3 minutes left on this candle. If it continues to hold this level, you have the catalyst for this, so maybe build some sort of U shape right here. But you can see the buyers coming in off of those tops. It was hard to kind of see it happen when it was full red engulfing, but now that the buyers are pushing it just a little bit right there, maybe not a terrible order off of those 64s. It's not going to be something that I play, but I would say it's decent. Coming back in, leaving that wick. So maybe this needs to come back into these 23 halves again for this to be something. But I do not like that wick right there coming into the middle of this red move. So I am going to go cancel this 25 order now that I can see this. And the candle is turning red. Do we have any size holding these 24s? And we got stopped out of some 24s right there. Let's take off this 25 order. Let's see where that stop came in at. Were there any buyers off at 24s? It stopped me at 24.02. So it actually gave me a 2%, 2% of a penny premium. Looking at we though, is it going to be able to hold this level? I don't know. Is it able to break this sort of downtrend? Maybe it needs to sideways consolidate for a little while. We can maybe think about trying the middle of this green move still. Let's get that order back out there for 25s. And let's just do a 2.5% stop off those 24s again. Just make sure we got the size stacked above it, and we do. So let's replace that order in off 24s. 23 seconds. I'm glad that those buyers stepped in there holding those 24s still. A little bit of increased volume, just a little bit. Not anything to brag about, but if this next candle wants to show us increased volume, we're looking at 24.90 could give us that move to the upside. And that should be the close of the candle right there. Let's see what this next candle is going to do. We have 50 lots stacked at 47s and 4 lots off 48s. Looks like we're going to take the side to the down route, to the downside. Off the open, that is. 35 should be, these wick highs should be able to hold decent. I kind of overlooked this, but we do have an intraday gap up right here from these 23.37s. So maybe this is an area where we can try to reload everything, give it to these 23s. That would be against my EMAs, but that intraday gap, if somebody is really interested in pushing that price down there, it could be an area that we look at. Vail, I didn't even realize Vail was down so much. Let me look over here real quick. Looks like they paid a dividend today. Gapping down below a trend line. That with negative 260 strength, this looks like one that I would just kind of let breathe.
I'd say this is potentially a support level down here near 11. I would say you're getting fair value if you try it there at 11. Personal opinion. We right back into those 24s. Probably just stopped me out of some shares there, which is all right. My dog's having a bad dream right now. It gave me 23.96 that time. Good size, still continuing the stack on that. So let's go put another trim off of those 24s. As long as it's continuing to hold these 24s, let's just keep putting that stop in for that. And those 24s stopped us out again. Back in the 23.80s. So we are very light volume on that move up. That is the catalyst for why we're going to cancel this 25 order. We're going to go check and see how many shares we got. Reasonable, and that average keeps jumping up slightly. CLF with a nice continuation play. I wouldn't have guessed that. I remember looking at this name yesterday and saying, hey, we got this gap right here. I wouldn't have expected a 8.5% move up on the name. But looking at it now, I'd say you had a nice trend line hold. $600 lots trying to hold 24s here. Man, sleepy. Late night, early morning. Gotta love it. But it doesn't look like money to be made both ways. Laugh aloud. Yeah, I agree. Money to be made both ways. If you're talking about recession, there's whether you're just holding cash could be looked at as money to be made. Having the cash to deploy after a decrease would be something. But drift, I've been the live stream's been going for a little over 2 hours. I know you just tuned in, but I am starving and I got a long day of work that I gotta at least get ready for. I still gotta shave and get cleaned up, and I gotta drive 45 minutes for my job today. So, I'm just gonna be doing the same exact thing here. I'm gonna be working this 24 level, keep putting small stops in, securing some profits, and whether it ends up working for me or not, we're gonna find out. Here's 24 half, so maybe we can watch it for this last little bit right here. There's 24 halves. We'll watch it for this little bit and see if we can get these 25 fills. If I get the 25 fills, and we're going to go stop some shares out again. Either these 24s are going to be able to hold or they're not. But we're going to keep trimming those profits. And if we can get this 25, we're looking to aggressively start trimming this for this move up. And if we get a break of these 26 halves, we're going to hold a piece for the dream. So that's what we're looking to do. We have 11 lots stacked off 24 halves right here. Looking at some of these other top movers today, G-Sit was a name that we traded quite a bit. Nice neckline break right there. See that neckline break? Shoom. If you were good at taking that, right now you'd be sitting, nothing crazy, but in the money. But that's been on a tight channel to the downside. See the catalyst right there, where maybe this is building some sort of wedge. You only got 2 points of contact right there. Maybe you could say there's a wedge pattern building. But for the move, right near that 786, not half bad. And we still catching a bid, 2460. Coming right back in though. Let's clear everything. I really just need this trend line right here, where maybe it needs to pull back into that trend line first, where this is going to be some sort of ABC into that trend line, which I'd say 22. So if we were looking to stop out everything, maybe try this off this trend line again tomorrow. Bid's still holding these 24 halves though. I do gotta take a look at WBD. Warner Bros. Discovery. Right near this 1350, I really think could actually potentially be something. This is what's holding. We've talked about this wedge pattern. Wedge, wedge. Now coming into sort of this halfway mark, which is 1348, the current spot that we're at. Let's try it. Why not? Let's try and just get a little bit of size on this position. And we'll try it right here. We'll just mark it in. Even if the price goes against us, we're going to try it for some shares right there. And if this wants to start giving us that curl that we think it can, and if it doesn't, we can average in off the neckline or these highs. So call it like a 13 flat. And then the trend line, we'll give it that trend line. That's what we're looking at there. We is still holding these 24 halves. Is this going to be able to give us that move to the upside that we've patiently waited for? $1,200 lots off of these 60s. Do we have any orders ready for these 25s? We don't. We have 0 orders ready for these 25s. So let's... And it just took out those 60s. Oh boy. Only 2 lots on these 70s. It should take those out very easily. And we got our size there at the 25s for a trim. Let's see if we can ring that register again before we end this. Good size stacking. Good size stacking, trying to hold these 75s. There's 88s. Let's get a small trim as it's holding these 85s right now while we can. So we rang the register a little bit on, we should have got 24.85, what it's showing right there. Let's take a look. It gave us 7.5s. It just barely took those out before we had a chance, but we rang the register nonetheless. But candle number 3 on this green move here, still wicking into that area. Chipping away. It chipped away a few of those 89s. Tight spread. Trying to decipher what it wants to do. Looking at pen. We're so close to having a dandy of an entry there. Very close. It's giving the look like it wants to curl. Kind of has that frowny face look with this intraday gap right there. We're going to take another small piece off right here. Just in case. Looking at our position, we only have a little bit left of the reload. So sitting at just under 50% of the position left now. And there, are we going to finally get this 25 fill? Tapping these 80s. My dogs got to go outside. Of course they got to go outside. Why wouldn't they? But that being said, whether we get these 25s or not, after 25s, we'll probably be on the ask at the body candles, which is 25 half to 26. So we'll see how that goes, but that's going to call it for the live stream today. Very fun trade. I had a lot of fun trading it. I hit a nice reload on it, rang the register on some clean profit, and I mean, that's all I can ask for. But my dogs got to go outside. They smell bad. So that's going to call it. I appreciate everyone who tuned in, and we'll be back here tomorrow, same time.